Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. And you can see that I'm in a different location again. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Yeah. Oops. That's hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. And you can see it there. Now the YouTube streaming is put down. Right. What are we going to talk about today? Last time was quite something, and probably something that one might need to hear several times. So we're going to try and make it a little easier this time, and just sort of repeat, but do it in a different way. And let me just share my screen. Where is it? What did I want to show? I wanted to look at this here, just so that we get a picture of the different centers. And we've talked about the different centers, and we've also talked about the 4 centers that are motor centers, and that there's a continuous motor. And we've also spoken that this center, the sacral center, the second one from the bottom, is what defines a generator. It's a very strong center because it's got that motor that is always running. It's always got that hum. It's like a motorcycle or a car that you don't shut off. You might have it in neutral, where it just sort of hums along, like a cat purring is the way I think of it, and there's no actual activity, but you can put it into gear. You can put it into first gear, you can put it into second, third, fourth, and it goes faster and faster and faster, and you can put it down into neutral, but you just cannot shut it off. And I'm just remembering when I was with a non-energy person in the room, and we were each trying to do our own work. And the non-energy person just wanted me to shut off my engine. And I couldn't. I was so focused on my own thing, but he kept on saying, I can still feel you. And I was completely puzzled. What does that mean? He can still feel me? But yeah, to him, it was that motor. I know now that I know human design. So that's the sacral. And we talked about the emotional center, the solar plexus, here on the right, the brown triangle, which has the wave. And there's always a wave going through, except for that in 2027, that wave won't be there like that anymore. But right now, anybody who has that defined, it's just a constant wave. There's different types of waves. We looked at that, I think, in the second video. But for now, we just have to know that the way the energy flows is in wave form. It's not that brum brum of the motor. It's a wave. And the root, the way the energy works there is it's pressure. It's like a pressure cooker. There's just that constant pressure. That's the way that motor works. And then we have the little red triangle, which is the heart, which has nothing to do with love and all to do with willpower. We know the physical heart is it's got that pumping motion, and that's exactly how it works here too. It's a pulse. It's a pulse that comes and goes, and you've got to wait for that moment when the pulse is there, and we relax it when there's nothing there, and then suddenly there's something there again. So these are the 4 centers that we call motor centers. You can always feel them. And let's go to what we call the awareness centers. There's 3 awareness centers. There's this one on the left, the spleen. there's the ajna, the mind, and there's the emotional, the solar plexus. These three are awareness centers, and this is part of development over hundreds and thousands of years, that awareness is coming actually eventually into all of the centers. We started out with having awareness in the spleen, and the spleen, I think of it as the body, the physical. The spleen is, and there's a physical awareness that we have. So the body knows what it wants, what it needs. It drinks something when it's thirsty. It moves when it wants to move. It's still when it wants to be still. It scratches itself automatically. There's no thinking, but the body has that awareness of what it needs to do, an awareness of itself. And then we have the ajna. And this is pretty new. This is about 400 years old, that there's awareness of self, an awareness that allows us to observe ourselves, an awareness of that we can be critical about ourselves, and we can change our behavior if we want to, through the ajna, the mind being aware of its own thoughts. So we are aware that we are thinking, and we can change our thoughts, we can monitor our thoughts, which, by the way, is a very, very good thing. And then we have the emotional, the solar plexus here on the right, which is just developing now, that awareness of our own emotions. So up to now, it was more, we just have our emotions and we assumed that this is who we are. I am angry. Not I have anger, but I am angry. I am sad. It's who I am. And now we are realizing that this is not who I am. I am not my emotions. It's a wave that's going through me. I can observe my emotions. I can feel my emotions. The emotions are aware that they're there. And I just find it so interesting now that I'm doing human design, that I wrote that book before I ever knew about human design. I wrote about being aware of our emotions, and that the emotions are not who we are, and that emotions are information. So when I feel that anger energy moving through me, it's information that something that I don't agree with something. And I can move it to what I do agree with what I want, rather than what I don't want, so that it becomes non-judgmental. And of course, much more. So yes, these are the three awareness gates. I think of them, and that's not quite correct, but I think of them as body, mind, and spirit. Sort of these three anchors that we have right now. And as I said, the other centers are becoming aware also. So in 2027, there'll be a shift. It's already happening now. And it won't be just like that, but it's the background frequency shifts suddenly in 2027, but we can feel it, and it'll change things slowly, and there'll be so much more awareness in all the centers, but particularly in the emotional center. Okay, so that's the three awareness centers. Then we have two pressure centers. We have the head right at the top, and we have the root right at the bottom. And they're pressing, the root is pressing up, and the head is pressing down. So you can see in the head, it's only got 3 gates, and they're pressing their insides down the way. And the root is pressing everything up the way in different ways. 3 gates pressing directly up through the middle, 3 gates pressing up through the emotional, 3 gates pressing up through the physical, the spleen. And then we have the throat, which is sort of a standalone, because in the throat, It's where we manifest. It's where everything comes out, where everything wants to be expressed into the illusion that we're living in, into the Maya that we're living in. And before I go to the G center, Lorenz, did you want to jump in and?
Yeah, just to maybe say the same thing you said with a little bit different words. I see the body graph as a circuit board, as we mentioned before, and we all have the same circuits lying there. If it's colored in or if it's white, it's not that we don't have them when they're white. It's more like the energy doesn't constantly run through there, but we all have the same circuit board in essence. And there is, you can go pretty deep in how the energy moves on that circuit board. Basically, it starts at the pressure centers in the root and the head, as Una said, and all roads lead to Rome, or in this case, to the throat. So wherever the energy starts and wherever it moves through from the root or from the head, it all wants to be expressed through the throat, either as thoughts being expressed in words or action being manifested. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Yes, and now the G center, which for a long time was a bit mystical to me, like what is it exactly? And so the G center, what does G stand for? It stands for gravitation, and gravitation towards it. It's like the earth pulling us towards the earth. This is gravitation towards me. What do I pull towards me, and what, and at the same time, what holds me together in this illusion? What holds that personality side and the design side together in this illusion? What that mind, that let's not call it mind, we could call it spirit or soul, or my soul, maybe myself. What puts that into my body? And that's actually something that I was stuck on as a child for a long time. Why am I connected to this body? Many people didn't understand my question. It's not like anything is wrong with me, nothing wrong with my body. It's just, why do I, when I point, why is it pointing to this body? Why do I not identify with another body? And that's what happens here in the G center. It connects that identity, that soul, with the physical. It glues it together. It gravitates it together. So yeah, Ra calls it the magnetic monopole, rather than a dipole. So if we have a magnet, we have two sides to it.
We don't see the picture again.
And that's because I don't have it up.
Okay.
I forgot to put it up in preparation. Let me just find it while I talk. If I put that here. Did it plop in? Here we go. So magnet creates this type of field, which we don't see. But I'm trying to find the other one too. But it creates a torus, like a swimming ring type of
field around it.
It's two poles. It has a south pole and a north pole, just like the Earth. And the Earth has the same effect. The Earth is a bipolar. It's magnet, it creates this type of field, just like our heart also creates this type of field, a torus field, because it's got two sides to the magnet, the plus and the minus, the south and the north. And what we're talking about here is a monopole, so just one side of the pole that pulls in, that attracts, and you could compare it like to a black hole or a wormhole where things are just sucked in. It's almost like, I guess, like just one side of the magnet, just sucking in, gluing things together. Let's go back to here, the G center. So G center, when we think of the word G center, officially it's gravitation. When we go to that place, that monopole, it's where everything is connected, not just me connected, my soul and my physical body connected, but it's also where I am connected to the whole illusion, to everything it is. So it gives me a sort of a feeling of unity. It's that unity field, that unity mind, that supreme mind. So some people call it the God center, G for God. Some people call it the G, like Chi center, like prana, Chi center. But again, officially, it's the gravity center. And yeah, it just attracts everything that we need in life if we operate correctly. So again, if we are living according to authority and strategy, we attract into our G center exactly what we need, and in that way, the G center moves us through time and space. It just draws us almost like a silver cord or a red line. It draws us to the right places, in the right direction, towards love and beauty and unity and all of that, all those good things, if we operate correctly. Lorenz, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, there is, Una already has the picture of, like, it's her chart, but it only shows the personality. And you can split your chart into these two sides, the personality and the design. And as we said in a Zoom before, they come in at different times. They come in, the red chart, the design, comes in 88 days before. And Ra has a whole, his own mystical view of how that all works. I don't think we will go into that, although it's very interesting. But he basically says that this red side and the black side, they come in as crystals and they are held together by the chi. And that refers a little bit to Una's story, like, yeah, why is my black crystal, my personality, in this red crystal in this body? And according to Ra, this is held together by the chi center, in the chi center. And I have a metaphor that I really like, that is only viable to people who were going to ski with older technology. Like, you have these old ski lifts where you take the thing down and you hook it, you sit on it, and it draws you along this line up the hill. And this is what the chi center feels to me, being drawn through the universe, like there is an anchor and it draws me through time and space. And by following strategy and authority, that becomes very easy. And by not following it, I might have slipped and I'm being dragged up anyway, but in a not so comfortable position. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good metaphor. And it's sort of the G center, it draws you, but it doesn't draw you out. Well, how do you imagine that? The ski lift, it's almost like you're being drawn along through time and space, and at the same time, it draws in what you need. I guess in that way, it's almost like two things in one. Draws you along and draws in the environment that you need.
It's exact. I can feel what you're saying. Yeah, it's like drawing in the right things, and by that become like having a direction that you can follow, or you don't follow it. It just guides you along this guiding, whatever it is. Yeah.
It's almost like we're not in time and space anymore right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe a word to the not self of the chi. Does that fit here?
Yes, please go ahead.
So as Una also said before, it's about love and direction, and we covered this especially in the last Zoom, where all that love and direction comes from. But people with a defined chi center, they often have, if they are aware of it or not, but they have a sense of identity. They know who they are on a certain level, and also direction and purpose. And if you have an open chi center, you can see that in the other. And because we take in the open centers and amplify, I can see that in others and then automatically ask, well, who am I then? I see that this person has her purpose and identity all set. So what about me? And that's not the right question for an open chi center. So am I looking for love and direction is the question to ask, to see if you are operating according to not self, if your mind has taken over and you're following something, you're doing something because you're looking for love. And I mean, that's a very strong force. You can be led astray quite far by looking for love. But whenever the question pops up in my head, who am I? What is my person? Where is my direction? I know that I am not operating out of myself. It is literally questions that have no meaning for an open chi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this love and direction, looking for love and direction outside of ourselves takes us in the wrong direction. Whether this chi center is defined or undefined for you, we always need to find love and direction within ourselves, within our strategy, within our authority. And just as Lorenz said, defined or undefined, we have it. It's there. It's just that in one case, it's continuous, and in the other case, it comes and goes. But in both cases, love and direction comes from within, from our own monopole in this case. So
and it's not like I can create it. I cannot create my will or my mind or whatever cannot create my direction. I suddenly might find that I have it.
Yeah. Wait until it's there. Or whatever your authority and your strategy is. You know, if it's a manifestor, you don't have to wait. It comes up out of you. And if you're a generator with an undefined G center, you may need to wait to respond to something, and then you'll have your direction and your love. So, yeah, where is it located? This is where Ra points to, and he says it's underneath the sternum. It's right underneath the sternum. So this is why it's also a little bit above the heart in the chart, just a tiny bit. The heart a little bit over to the left, and the G center right in the center. Yeah, in my meditations, I sometimes just tune in to find that, just like we can tune into physically where is the heart, we can physically tune into where is the G center. It's I guess we'll talk about that more at some other point, but it's connected to the organ of the liver. Yeah, and I also just to mention this. When I talked to a manifestor and I asked her, how do you manifest? How do you actually do it? I'm a generator. I'm a pure generator. I've got no idea how you do that energetically. She looked at me as though, I should know. Everybody knows how to manifest. So I asked her again. I said, I really don't. And she started explaining how something builds, an energy builds. And she was pointing to her chest. She says, it's in here that something builds, a vision, an energy of what she wants to manifest. And she didn't know human design. And then she says, and you keep it to yourself, you keep it close to yourself. And at some point, after days, weeks, months, it bursts out. You can't help it. It just bursts open, I guess, like a pea pod or something, just flower pot, just bursting open at some point. So again, it's here that manifestation that in one way or another, however we envision it, happens. The monopole scientists, well, the voice that in that mystical experience that Ra had, the voice actually said to Ra that scientists will find that monopole. And seemingly scientists have been looking for the monopole somewhere out in space. And Ra said, well, they're just not looking in the right place for that monopole. Yeah, I guess the monopole aligns us with our soul.
Through strategy and authority, yeah, if we allow it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a little more to defined and undefined. So a defined G center, you have a constant sense of who you are. You have it's also about identity. So you could say, I have a constant sense of my identity is, you could say my identity is being a carpenter, or my identity is being a musician. It's not who you are, it's your identity, your role that you're playing in life. And you're just constantly aware of the role that you're playing, you identify it with it. Whereas somebody with an undefined G center, they can walk into the room and isn't sure what their identity is because they identify with everybody else around them. Whereas the defined G center can walk into a room and won't change their identity. They are still who they are. They are still that musician, that carpenter, that mother, that shopkeeper, whoever it is, they identify with. So the advantage, disadvantage, who knows? The way the undefined works is they can feel the essence of the other person. They can feel who everybody else is. They can feel the authenticity of everybody else. They can also adapt. So they have, let's say you've got two places in two sets of people that you need to talk to. So today you're going to talk to a group of farmers, and you can completely identify with them and talk their talk in their way, get things across just because you know how they talk and how they are. Next time you're sitting with a group of, let's say, mothers, and you can completely identify with them and talk their talk. Then you can, maybe you've got a group of CEOs, and you can completely sync with them and talk to them in the way that they can get it. But it also means that the undefined G center, you've got to be very careful in what environment you are. Because if you are in an environment where people are full of, I don't know, hatred and ugliness, or a way that you really don't like, you are very, very, very uncomfortable. So being in a group of people who support you, who love you, who is really important for people with an open G center. I remember this. I had a therapist who knew human design, and he and I talked about it. And he said he used to ask people for their chart to see, and he realized that people with an open, undefined G center, they would come to him, and he would tell them, take this medicine or that, do these exercises, and they would go, yes, absolutely, that's wonderful. And when they walked out of his environment and they were at home, they identified again with whoever was around them at home, and they completely didn't agree with whatever their therapist, had suggested, because it was his identity that he placed into the identity of his clients.
Yeah, it's so interesting listening to you when you say all these things, because in my mind, I just remember all these instances where it is exactly like that. I remember growing up with this idea that I need an identity as well. What are you gonna be? Like, people ask you literally, what are you gonna be, when they ask you what job do you want to have. And also it was uncomfortable, and I tried. It didn't work very well. But also this, what was the other thing you said?
Being in different environments.
Yeah, exactly. This ability to be it's almost like a chameleon, and it never feels truly authentic or right. But I absolutely can, in Bavaria, in the east of Germany, I could talk to the loggers, the woodworking people who worked in the forest, and they have a very specific set of how they interact with each other that is very different from the community, the hippie community that I was staying at. And it was no problem understanding them, and I observe how I start to behave like the people that I'm surrounded with very quick. And at the same time, there is, at least now, there is this awareness that this is not who I am. This is happening with me, but it is not who I am. And I need to, and that's also something that I'm aware of now. Whenever something fascinates me, because I'm in a specific setting, I don't know, there might be a workshop in the community that I was staying, and I would be fascinated by whatever this workshop was about. I know that I shouldn't buy all the books and sign up for the next course. I first should spend some time in my own aura and see what actually sticks. Because it is exactly like this example with the therapist. There might be somebody in there for sure has a defined chi. And if that is the way for them, this workshop, it will feel very much so for me as well. But I cannot trust it. I need to spend time in my own space to see what actually sticks. So it is, it's super interesting feeling these different environments and seeing, like, I adapt my language after just 1 or 2 hours hearing people speak. I use the same words. If I want to or not, it happens automatically. I use the same body language. Yeah. So it's definitely very real.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm sure you have the same experience, Marama and Michelle. Do you have an open G center? No, you're like me, defined. Let me get my, yeah, mine is defined there. The yellow diamond. Okay, so let's look at auras again. here. The generator aura, we'll just describe it again, maybe with different words. I know we already did that in the first video. So the generator aura is very open. We can liken it to a sponge that is dry, and it can suck in so much of the energy that is around it. And we're going to compare it to the manifestor, which is a closed aura. It's almost, it repels. No water can get into that sponge. It just repels everything that's around it. So you have a generator and a manifestor that go into the supermarket. The manifestor comes out. The generator comes out with all of the bags that he bought, plus all the junk that he's collected from the people around them, energy-wise. And this is the purpose of the generator aura, is to take in and to transform. So you're taking in, let's say you're taking in what the manifestor wants to manifest and has started, and then you transform it into creating this beautiful building or creating this beautiful work of art, or manifestor says, let's cook, and manifestor starts cooking, and you're sucking that in, and then you're joining into that process. Or yeah, I think that'll be good. So the manifestor repelling, closed, the generator open and enveloping. Everything comes into that aura. And then the reflector is not quite as closed as the manifestor. The way the reflector can be described is we call it sampling. So the reflector aura bumps up against the other people and tastes a little bit there, tastes a little bit here, takes in this, takes in that, takes in the next thing, as an aura, as a physical energy field. And so the manifestor and the reflector aren't really letting much in, or almost none at all. And that all the auras, they come from the G center. This is where the energy of the shape of the aura comes. And we know the projector has this pointed aura that comes out of their sternum, out of this area, and points directly onto the next person and absorbs their identity. It really knows exactly what that identity is of the other person, can focus in and absorbs it into themselves. And that can be very uncomfortable. It can be very uncomfortable for a generator. It can be very comfortable also to have all that attention. But at some point, it can be just too much, that somebody is sucking in on your essence so intensely. It can also become too much for the projector, that there's so much essence that they're picking up and they can't stop it. So generators and projectors, it's always a good idea to be together for a few hours, but then they really need to separate. They really need to get out of each other's auras for the sake of both of them. Yeah. Lorenz, do you have anything there?
Yeah, so just again, a little strip out of my own experience. I often see people a little bit confused because I think most people are used to interact with generators because these are 2/3 of the population. So with a generator, you can impact them. They're open, like you can give them something and it goes to their aura and it does something there. Like they don't really have a choice. So be aware what you give them. But if people with a manifester, that is just, it's closed, so you can't really impact the manifester. The manifester is here to impact others, not to be impacted himself. So that might be a very different experience, but at least it's clear. What I experience often with me as a reflector is that people can get in, but they can't stick anything. Like they can come in to a certain extent, but then they don't necessarily have an impact, as long as I'm aware anyway. I don't take anything on. I always wait to process it myself. And for some people, and I believe especially projectors, that is very confusing. Like they're used to the generator that they can see and impact. And with me, they can kind of see certain points, but it's really hard to impact and it's really hard to stick something. So they're not used to the same, they're not used to the effect that they have on a reflector, even though the first part of being able to get in to some extent feels the same. And with a manifester, they can't get in anyway.
Yeah, I think the projector, they can't absorb who you are. And they are so used to interacting as absorbing. So actually for the projector, the only person they can really absorb is the generator. They can't get into the castle of the manifester. They can't really get into the reflector. The only person they can interact with is the generator. And when they do that too much, it just gets too much for the generator and the projector. And the generator, if the generator interacts with the manifester, the generator can sort of surround that castle. You know, the generator envelops the other person, but they can never conquer that castle. They never get into that castle. And I've had some dealings with a manifester lately, and basically I just listen. You know, he has all these ideas. He's not really needing or wanting. He says he wants my opinion, but he doesn't really, right? He's every once in a while I can say something and he'll go, oh yes, but not really in any depth as to how I know that as a generator, where we can really communicate deeply and say yes, this, and we share all the ideas and all of what's happening, and we really do it together. Manifester, there's no point in me really opening my mouth. Being a little extreme here. But I've got to really wait for the right moment to throw my 2 cents in there. Yeah.
To me, that also means that between the projector and the generator, it's often not an easy relationship, especially if one or both of them are not correct. But there is a huge potential for very, very beneficial connection between the projector and the generator. It's often also described that manifestors and reflectors go pretty well together, and projectors and generators would go really well together. There's a lot of potential because the projector can really take the generator in and is here to guide. That has the potential for being a very beautiful connection, as long as it's not out of the not self.
Yeah, it's actually needed for humanity, is how Ra says it. It's needed for humanity to survive, that the generators and projectors operate correctly so that they get along with each other. Because what happens in the not self and everybody not operating correctly is that they don't like each other. You'll have a group of people, the generators, and they'll talk about the projectors, and there's not much respect there because they don't get each other. And we gave a talk on Saturday to a group of about 20 people in the room. And we placed all the generators on one side. And then we had 3 projectors on the other side, and Lorenz as the reflector. And it was a lot of fun. We were told 2 hours, and it just went on for 3.5 hours, I think. And people still sitting there not wanting to go. Just having that life experience of all the generators together and all that buzzing was a lot of fun. And one of the exercises we gave them is we said, okay, it was in the afternoon. We said, okay, for dinner, what are you going to do? And in the generator corner, we had somebody said, I want to go home, make spaghetti. And the other person wanted to go out. Let's all go out. No, I want beans. And it just kept on chattering, chaotic chattering amongst them. And really no solution for quite a while, although we had told them, you need to respond. But there were all sorts of, we could do this, we could do that, all sorts of propositions to which no generator can actually react. Until one person who already had a little bit of practice and background in human design, she got it. And she asked, who wants to go to the restaurant? And some people put up their hand. Who wants to go to, I'm going to make spaghetti. Who wants to come? And people could react. So these are yes, no questions that people could react to. And they had it all sorted. Lorenz, do you want to add to that in your experience?
Yeah, just if you want to really throw a wrench into the generator machine, you give them a suggestion. And you watch them being stunned.
Yeah.
Them, we could go to the Chinese today. And you watch them being completely confused.
Yeah.
Because there's really nothing a generator can do with that. And it's so funny to see that this is what they do with each other. And it's especially like I observed, it was a little bit mean maybe, but I observed the generator family once for about 40 minutes of trying to figure out where they want to go eat dinner. And they're trained, like we're all, most people, 95% are not self. So generators are conditioned as manifestors. So they're always trying to manifest their ideas because they haven't learned to respond. So they would have this idea and they would be trying to manifest this idea, but they have also learned to be polite. So they would do it as a suggestion. The one member of the family would go, oh, I'd really like to go eat sushi. And imagine you have 3 generators in the family. So what are the other generators going to do with that statement? First, you don't know if it's true because it is a statement. So it might be coming from not self, the eating sushi. It wasn't a response necessarily. And then the others would go, yeah, that sounds cool. But we could also go eat at the Chinese. And now you have 2 suggestions that they can't react to. And it would go on for this literally for 40 minutes and they would almost come to a conclusion, but then they would also feel that it's not actually correct because the process wasn't correct. And after 40 minutes, everybody's exhausted, confused, and frustrated because they're generators.
Yeah.
And how this woman did it was really marvelous, because what I didn't know before or never seen until then is that you can actually ask a group of generators a question and they can all respond individually. It speeds up the process tremendously of trying to figure something out as a group of generators. You can ask them, I don't know, first maybe who wants to eat together today, and you get all the hands, and then who wants pizza, who wants spaghetti. And in the end, the solution was that those people would get pizza, those would get their sushi, she would cook spaghetti at home, and they would all meet and have dinner together. And although it didn't really happen, we could both, Una and me and everybody in the room, observe how the energy just was aligned. It was correct. It felt right. So that was a really cool experiment.
And all the projectors sat there looking in amazement, because to them, of course, it's exactly what they need. They need that invitation. And this projector was sitting there and explaining how if she gets asked, would you like to come to dinner? She feels like that's an attack. She feels like somebody's really imposing on her. She needs space. She would like that invitation. She would like that not a question. So the projectors don't need a question. They just need to say, you just need to say to them, I'm cooking spaghetti. If you'd like to come, you can come. It's not a question, it's a statement. And they say, then they actually really feel invited. Whereas if somebody says that to me, if they say to me, well, I'm cooking spaghetti, and if you'd like to come, you're welcome to. I have nothing to react to, and I don't feel really like they want to. It's like I can come or not come, and it doesn't really matter to them. They're not really speaking to me. So really interesting how that works. And when we wrote the invitation for that talk, I specifically put in 2 sentences, one for the projectors and one for the generators. So the projectors, you are invited, which is how invitations are spoken usually. But I also put in the sentence for the generators saying, are you coming? So that they could respond to that written question with yes or no. Yeah. We also did something where we grouped everybody with an emotional authority. So the solar plexus defined. We had all those waves together in the center, a group of us of maybe, what was it, maybe 6, 7 people. And so the rest of the people outside in the circle feeling that energy of the wave, and how strong, how powerful that is, and that we really can't help it, and that's with amongst each other, that is absolutely fine. So then we had a projector with splenic authority. So that projector did not have the sacral defined, did not have the emotions, the solar plexus defined. And she wanted to come in and feel that. So she came in all the way into the circle, and she didn't last very long. And she was just being defined by so many emotional waves. And then I told her to just step outside the room for a bit. And when I said that to her, she went out. One of the generators sitting on the sofa said she felt that was so mean of me, so mean to exclude her. Because as a generator, we are all together, and you don't exclude anybody. It's you want everybody involved in your enveloping. And the projector comes back in, and she's glowing, and she's feeling so free. And she says, "Oh, that was so wonderful to step outside and feel myself again." Yeah. Anything to add there, Lorenz?
It just makes the point of how unique we all are, and that it makes absolutely no sense to have these approaches. Like, it's polite to give people options. I just had I experienced a generator which was conditioned that it was polite to say, I'm going sailing. You can come along, but of course you do whatever you want. As of giving options, that being respectful, that being polite. And that would be true if he was saying that to another projector, but he was saying it to a generator, and it just doesn't work at all.
Yeah. And we had the possibility of, we did a couples session, and we had the possibility of seeing 2 people, 2 generators with both open emotions. And the open emotions do mean that you tend to avoid truth if you're in the not self. You avoid that truth. So they did that dance of not asking direct questions. And in the session, we got them to ask direct questions, like, do you want to stay with me? Do you commit to me? Do you want to live here? Just really direct questions. And they could, for the first time, see that truth that is coming out of the body rather than some kind of philosophical, spiritual, wishy-washy, talk, which could mean anything. Well, love is this and love is that, but do you love me? And the response comes from the body. Yeah. Oh, and yes, so just for the projector, some projectors that we've observed, they do it automatically. So you're all sitting around the table, but automatically the projector will walk away and sit on the couch, or will walk outside and just look out over the ocean, or we'll just find something else to do so that they can step outside and then come back in. And they'll sit at a distance from everybody else. Yeah. Okay. Good. So if you have questions, you can write them in the chat. But otherwise, I think we're good. Is there anything else that you have, Lorenz?
Nope.
Okay. Then I would say, let's see, where are my controls?
You can stop the live stream, maybe?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, I see.
So anybody watching this video later, we have come to an end. What is the aura of a manifesting generator? It's basically a generator. So we had in the room, we had 2 manifesting generators, and they basically worked like generators. It's almost like you've got the manifestor inside of the generator. So the manifesting generator can manifest, but it's within the cloak of the generator.
How I heard it described, which made a lot of sense to me, is that you generally you're like a generator and you work as a generator, but once you get into doing, once you get into action, you have a very closed repelling aura. So you don't necessarily want anybody interfering with you while you work. And that's also what I've been observing myself with manifesting generators, that this comes out mainly if they're absorbed in something, if they're absorbed in their work. That this manifesting repelling aura comes out. And it's also like, it's observe it for yourself, how the signal, like informing what you do when you get a yes for something and you start doing something. So the strategy of the manifestor is to inform. How does that impact your environment if you tell them what you're going to do right now? Because you might be absorbed and repelling in the process of doing whatever you're going to do. And also, as for the generator, the green flag of being within your strategy and authority is satisfaction, and for the manifestor, it's peace. And also experimenting with that, like when does a sense of peace and when does a sense of satisfaction come up in you? And how do they blend together? Like for us, that would be very interesting. I've mainly observed, or I would really like to hear from a manifesting generator how that feels. I've mainly observed rather nervous manifesting generators that were rather prone to frustration and anger because things didn't work. And having that sense of satisfaction and peace, would be the green flag, the signpost for manifesting generators. So it's a little bit of a blend, but it's mainly a generator.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't reach peace until I have satisfaction. Right. That's the way it works for me. Peace comes, and I really crave peace, but that. Yeah.
And do you? So you're a manifesting generator, I take. And what's your experience with the repelling aura? Do you feel that when you are embedded in your work, or does that come through at another time, or not at all?
And you say, if there's something to do, group projects drive me crazy. I have a really tough, I just want to do it. I just want to, just everybody get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. And this get out of my way, that's a very manifested thing. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. And that get out of my way, the bus is coming. You've got to tell them, you've got to inform them, I'm coming, I'm going to do this. I'm going to plant trees. I'm going to clean the kitchen. I'm going to wash the dishes. I'm going to go to my study. And then everybody else is okay, because they can feel that edge. That is fascinating, Michelle. If you can tell us more of what it's like to be a manifesting generator, that's extremely helpful.
Well, I mean, that's
yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So observe yourself in the next weeks until we meet again, and let us know.